If the price of conformity is the amount of life that we exchange for it, then I was more or less lifeless, living for the weekends and doing all the things that others wanted me to do during the week. October 27, 2007, down in Encinitas, I was a junior in high school. I was the captain on the #1 basketball team in San Diego. Thought my life was going well. My buddies and I got together at about 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and we started throwing around ping pong balls, drinking beers, and hour after hour we continued, finishing 30-pack, finishing another 30-pack. About 7 o'clock, somebody had to drive home. I decided I'd drive, and I got in the car, steering wheel of my white 1997 Toyota 4Runner about 7 o'clock, and headed down a three-lane west road, a center median, 3 eastbound lanes, going about 45 miles an hour. Heading down this road, and my front left Firestone wheel clipped the center median, hit the center median. I flipped 4 times, 400 feet across the center median, across 3 eastbound lanes, broke through the steel roadside protector, went down a ravine and hit a cement sewage tank and stopped 400 feet. That night, the paramedics said it was the worst accident they'd ever seen, where somebody didn't die and I didn't even break a bone in my body. I finished up my last 9 months in high school attempting to make up for my mistakes. I was all CIF first team, had multiple college basketball scholarships, and went to school to play college basketball, attempting to fit back into school and fit back into the rest of the world. But you know, the only reward of fitting in is that other people like us, and we usually don't like ourselves. And so while I sat in economics class freshman year, I realized that we may not have a world in 100 years. Just on the environmental degradation standpoint, a football field size of the rainforest is destroyed every second, not to mention the proliferation of nuclear weapons. What I also realized is that most of us are gambling on the biggest risk of all. That's the bet that we're going to buy the freedom to do what we want later in life after we followed the prescribed path of society. But this prescribed path is overbearing, and life's over before we know it. And while I sat there in class, I realized that in order for us to still have a world, it's up to each of us to define our dream, to set our goals, to create a plan, or we become part of somebody else's plan. And that it's up to us to take personal responsibility for the lives that we're living. And while I sat there in class, I became concerned that I was just going to become another obedient student and become another clog in this failing wheel of the system that we're living in. And when my life was getting near to end, I was going to look back and I was going to say, where did it all go? Where did my life go? Now, T.S. Eliot, he says, only those who go too far can know how far one can really go. And so I decided that I was going to give my mom a call on my 3rd semester in school. I said, hey mom, I just quit basketball and I'm going to quit school and I'm just going to go travel. And you can probably imagine that didn't go well. She wasn't the only one who thought I was crazy. But I went and I got on a plane and I traveled around the world without a map to follow my intuition, to see what we hear, that we can do anything, that anything's possible. And I couldn't figure that out while I was sitting in a life that was designed for me. So first place I went was Guatemala. And there I saw these kids that literally had holes in their shoes. They literally had nothing. And yet they were smiling each and every single morning. And it was the first time I could see and not just read that you don't need anything to fulfill you. You know, and I realized that there's a difference between learning it and living it. We're aware of the possibilities that exist for us, that Martin Luther King, Gandhi, these people aren't any different than any of us. Mother Teresa, we're aware of these possibilities, but we just leave them at that. And living it is a whole nother thing. It's taking a step towards your dreams, even if you don't know where to begin. And so I traveled around Australia, slept on the beach, went to Indonesia, but before I boarded the plane to Indonesia, when I was checking in, I realized I lost all my bank cards, my wallet, and all I had was a passport and a little bit of cash to get on the plane, get a visa, and the hotel. I went on the plane anyways to test the principle of calculated risk. Take a step into the unknown and life will balance your experience. And I realized that that's what we're all being called to do. As Peter was saying, to save this world, that we have to take a risk towards what we're really capable of. So I got on the plane, and ultimately I was taken in by some locals. I was walking on the street with no money, and these guys were trying to sell me something. And this guy came closer to me. I said, "Look, man, I don't have any money." And he just started laughing at me. And he came closer, and his name was Rudy, and he said, "Rudy gonna take care of you. Rudy gonna take care of you." And I remember I looked up at him. I said, "Okay." And so he took me back into these concrete shacks outside of the city. Just 6x6 concrete shacks, one after another, where everyone lives. No doors, no windows, no nothing. He comes closer to me, and we're there. And he says, "This is where I live with my whole family." And then he takes his hand into his pocket, and he takes out a wad of rupiah, which is Indonesian currency. And it's about $10. He says, "I want you to have this. This is my money for my family, but I want you to have this so you have a phone to call America. I want you to be taken care of." So I spent the next 2 weeks living with them. When I finally got a wire transfer, I went back to him, and I had $250, and I thought my ego was running. I thought I was going to be this big guy that was going to give them all this money, 2, 3, 4 years worth of salary for them. He said, "I want you to have this." He said, "I don't want your money. The purpose of life is giving without expecting return. Why would I want your money if the purpose of life is giving without expecting return?" And it hit me, and I was like, wow. Well, I guess I don't want to do anything except for travel around with locals, because I was learning all of these things that I never was aware of. So I found myself a week later on the outskirts of civilization in a little island called Lombok. I met these kids about my age, these locals. They sleep outside, they live outside, they have nothing. And they wanted to take me hiking. Jake, we're going to take you to our favorite waterfall, And we're climbing up these rocks full of moss. It's pouring rain. You can't see any buildings around you. And I slip, and I fall, and I'm falling down. And I can see my whole life flash before my eyes. And so I'm just going to tell you what's going to happen before you die. And I hope it's not a spoiler for you. And that's, you're going to wonder if you lived your life. You're going to wonder if you made the difference that you can make. You're not going to be able to bring any of your money with you. You're not going to be able to bring your partner with you. You're just going to wonder if you made a difference and if you really did what you wanted to do with your life. And I said to myself, I'm okay if I die right now because I did what I wanted to do. And then this voice said to me, you're going to be okay. And as soon as I said that, boom, I hit the ground, and I was like 10, 12 feet below them, and those waterfalls rushing on top of me, and I open my eyes, my arms and my legs are bleeding, and I kind of look around, and I realize nothing's broken. As soon as I turn around, one of them jumps off after me. I can hear the other one screaming at the top, and I just start crying on the ground, because it's the most incredible thing someone's done for me in my whole life. That they believed in something so much that they were willing to risk their lives for it. Can you imagine if that's how we lived our lives for whatever you believed in, saving the environment, creating new energy, a new banking system, if we were willing to put ourselves out like that? And I sat there crying. And they saved my life. And that night while I was lying there on my bed, I realized I traveled around the whole world looking for something with my eyes, searching for something, only to find that it was within me the whole time. Everything I was looking for, my gifts, everything. And I said, well, people got to know this, and I decided I'm going to write a book. Problem was, I failed my junior English class in high school, and I was kicked out because my teacher said that I had too much of a contempt for authority. I didn't graduate college, I took no writing classes, and I was studying economics. So I went home after I finished 14 days silent meditation in Thailand. I said, hey mom, I'm going to write a book. And she's like, okay, comes home the next day and prints out all these different writing schools. You can go here for 4 years and then write it. I'm like, Mom, I have to write it right now. And that's where we're at. We have to do what we see inside of ourselves, that vision right now. We have to do it right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, because it's going to come the week after, and the week after, and the week after. And so I wrote the book, wrote the whole book, finished it before I was 20 years old. And the way it works is you need a literary agent. So I start contacting literary agents, and I have this idea for this book. It's all written out, one after another. They're denying me. Oh, you're not famous, you're too young, you don't have a platform, you don't have fans yet. And I was like, yeah, that's the whole point. We're moving that way. And they just kept denying me. And I remembered when I had the the opportunity to compromise on my vision and to just settle, that what Michelangelo said, it's not so much that we aim too high and miss it, but that we aim so low and we reach it. So I kept my vision. And I got to one of the last agents that I have. And how many people in here have heard of the Dummy series books? So this is a guy who launched the Dummy series books. He's one of the top literary agents in the world. And I found his address. And I remembered that everything is a risk. When you leave today, everything you do from here on out is a risk. It's a risk to stay where you are in your life and keep doing the same thing. And it's a risk to make a difference, to take a chance on your dreams. And so I drove to his house and I knocked on his front door and I had a note and I told him that we were going to change the world together. And one of my legs is going this way, one of it's going that way, and I just did it anyways. And I realized that you're going to feel scared and you just have to do it anyways. And so a few weeks later, I got a call back from him and I had a publishing contract. My book was set to release April 16th of this year, 2013. And 72 hours after the book on the Amazon page launched, it hit #1 in travel and ahead of Eat, Pray, Love, ahead of Into the Wild. And I stand here just to tell you that it's possible. And this is the book here. I didn't graduate college, took no writing classes. When you have a dream, when you have a vision and you know that you can do it, your past is insignificant, you're bigger than your challenges, all your stories, your excuses why, they go completely insignificant. And I'm here to tell you that you matter and that you count. And together we matter. Right now, Justin Bieber, that guy can reach 500 million people in 24 hours. With this, with that, with the internet, we can reach anyone in the world, the whole world. The world can be transformed in like a day or a week if we want it to. And so I'm here to tell you that you can do it. And that it doesn't matter what you do as long as you love what you're doing. As long as you believe in what you're doing. And when you look back on your life, that's all you're going to wonder. That's the only thing you're going to wonder. Somebody's changed the world with everything. Somebody's changed the world by writing books, with pens, with cameras, with exit signs on doors, and even with trash bags. And it's like, whoa, can you imagine the guy that created the trash bag? And he was like, okay, guys, I have this bag, and we're going to put all the trash inside of it. And everyone was like, that's the stupidest idea. And now it's everywhere. So the point of that is that when you have a dream, when you have a vision, people are going to say you can't do it. People are going to say you're stupid or it's stupid. And you just have to keep going. And you just have to keep doing it. And so I want everyone to raise their hand. I want everyone to raise their hand as high as they can. And I want everyone to raise it a little higher. Everyone just raised their hand higher after they said that they could raise it as high as they could the first time. What's the point of that? That there's more within you that you're aware of than you've been told, than you believe, than your circumstances tell you. And that whatever is inside of you, that you can do it. And that together, we're going to transform this world. We already have everything we need to do it. And now we just need us. Thank you.